Hey Sumit, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Nikhil, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for taking out time for this. It's really been great. I think I know you from a long time, but it's really great to talk to over here, right? And yeah, sharing all your interests and everything. Great, Sumit. I think we can
Yeah,
start with your introduction first.
first of all, thanks a lot for having me, Nikhil. I think this is my first podcast. I am a pretty shy person, so whenever I get invited to any of the conferences or any podcast, I have been invited quite a lot earlier as well. And I usually refrain from going because I am a very introverted person, but I think this was meant to happen, and very happy to be here. So just a bit about myself. So I passed out of IIT Delhi in 2010 from Maths and Computing branch. So maths has always been a favorite subject for me. So I started my career as a software engineer. In my first year, I was working in a startup called Wind Shuttle as a software engineer, and I wanted to try out the analytics field, and somehow American Express happened, and I was there for 1.5 years, where I got introduced to machine learning. Basically, data. We used to call it data science in those days.
Yeah,
It's kind of looked down upon since the advent of AI, but we used to call it analytics and data science in those days. So I started as a software engineer in 2010, but in 11 I moved into data science. I was involved in building risk models for American Express, credit decisioning models, and I actually learned a fair bit about data at by working at American Express, because we were actually like building our own data sets, cleaning them up, right, doing QCs, and then building models over it.
yeah,
And I feel that one thing that I really liked about that role was that we were very close to the data. So we were doing everything on our own. We were looking at features and their trends or patterns against Y. These sort of things, strong basics got ingrained there. So after that, I moved into Walmart Labs because I thought ki risk is a little limiting, right? Because Amex mein you can't try any model that you want. You have to have explainability because, of course, the nature of the business is such. And that industry is a
yes,
little, generally, I would say, fintech industry used to be, at least in those days, a little behind rest of the tech world when it comes to data science and algorithms and practically applying those things and seeing the impact. So I remember I had built a neural networks model. It was a pretty big leap in terms of technology at Amex. Model was outperforming everything, but then it came down to what is the explainability of the model, and that's where it kind of uh, got put on the back burner. So I realized that I have good data fundamentals now. So I tried. I was just exploring, and Walmart Labs basically reached out to me, and I started working there. And that's where I became a proper data scientist, where I was working in on clickstream data, on different kinds of problems other than risk, where we were working on forecasting, we were working on customer conversion, etc. Post that, so I was at Walmart for 2.5 years as a senior data scientist. I remember, I don't remember the exact thing now, data scientist or senior data scientist, but it was a good time, to be honest. I had a great team, to be honest. They were some of the best people that I have ever worked with in my entire career. So very strong team. And that's where I think it was about 2015 when the startup ecosystem was booming in India, and I wanted to learn the basics of the trade and basically see how the experience is. That's when I started with Swiggy. I was their first data scientist. So some of the initial models that were there in 2015, 16, 17 were all built by me and my team. And that's where I think the I would say things became very real. Like, we were churning out three models every quarter, and we had a team of only three people. We were a team of three people, including myself. So that was a great learning experience. Uh, then I was there at Flipkart for 4 years. Uh, Then I was heading urban data science at urban company. Then lending card happened in fintech.
Yeah.
So right now, so I have explored a lot because I have always been trying to find the right career path for myself and what I really enjoy doing. So I wanted to explore a few domains and see how things are in each of these domains and how I am able to create impact. So some of the challenges that I've faced across some of the companies are that sometimes you are building a very strong model, like extremely cutting edge for the time, right? And and you realize that to be able to take this model live and to be able to, let's say, measure the impact, it's very tough because the system is so dynamic. There are so many variables. Let's say there are 20 variables in a system and my model is impacting one of the variables. There is no way for me, or it's very tough for me to control the 19 other variables to be able to measure the impact. And I think that's what I used to like about fintechs, that you can basically just go build a simple model and you can directly see the impact, which is tough in a general tech world. Yeah, so journey has been pretty exciting, to be honest. I have learned a lot. Right now, I am at Sprouts AI, heading AI here, and this is a completely new domain for me. This is the Sprouts caters to B2B business. First of all, they are into go to market space, so this is all new for me, and they are mostly into LLMs. That is also something that I'm learning, and I'm really having a great time of that as well. So we are building some really cool stuff at Sprouts. So yeah, overall journey has been pretty good. Can't complain, I can say.
Been great experience, Sumit. Would love to know, even, what are the things that you have been doing in right now in Sprouts, right? What the kind of product that you're working over here?
Sprouts, I think by design, it's a go-to-market software. So they are solving that side of the funnel, right? So whenever a company wants to, let's say, do business development or sales, there are different names to that: Martech, SDR Tech, Sales Tech, etc. But they all kind of merge into the same concept that we want to make the selling easier, right? And we do have a lot of data around it now. So whenever a customer visits our website, we have data accumulators collecting that data. We can get that data, run some models over it, get some insights on whom to target, right, and how to target them. So Sprouts is mainly into solving all this end to end. So at Sprouts, we are collecting data from different sources. Different companies are providing us with customers' data. We are also collating it internally with from our customers. Then we build customer-centric models for them, like what are the ideal customer profiles for you, whom should you target basis your historical data set. Then there is a automation component as well, not exactly automation, but like if I want to, let's say, send out messages to uh, different leads. How do I do that? Do I have to enter it manually? What information to include? So we are using AI for that as well, where we are actually passing out some of the customer variables and variables about our company, how we are basically doing. And then we can basically reach out to customers using hyper personalized messages. So, like what has happened in their recent life, like recent career, right? Is there an event that is relevant for, let's say, me as a company? Then I can utilize that event as well, plus some of the stats that I provide, some of the variables that I provide. And there will be a hyper personalized message that will be generated automatically, and it will be email will be sent to the customer, or LinkedIn request can go to the customer. And all this is by push of a button. Now we are actually taking it one step further. We are collating custom signals as well. Like for example, if I want to capture a certain signal that who have opened offices in the last 6 months or so, which are the companies, and I want to target them. So uh, that part is also ready now. That you can define your custom signals and basically define different target profiles basis the custom signals, right? And finally, then there is one more component that we are working on, which is AI agentic systems. I think that is a buzzword right now. And the idea is to make this entire experience even more smooth, that you can just directly talk to an agent and basically get your work done and everything, like from collating data, getting the profile shortlisted basis, ideal customer profile scores, to sending hyper personalized messages, and of course, including a custom AI signals and considering them while building the ideal customer profile score. So all these things are completely automated. So it will be like you are talking to an agent, and that agent is kind of working for you in the backend. So we are kind of solving for whom to target, how to target, right? With what to target, and then again wrapping it up in a nice experience using AI agentic systems.
So if I look back, in the data science world, when you were creating a model for each and everything, right? But now with generative AI, you can write a prompt, you can write an agentic system to do all these things, right? So how do you look like? I think, as you told, like you're doing a lot of intelligence work, right? And Sprout. So how does these making applications, journey looks does it look very different to you? Or, let's say, and how it is different? According to you? And what are the potential, that using, since you're now using generative AI rather than a traditional models, right? So how those potential has been unlocked?
So these kind of problems were very tough to handle earlier. For example, I remember we were building a review mining project at Flipkart, right? And if I remember correctly, we were using some sort of embedding. I think word-to-vec embedding. We were kind of figuring out what are customers talking about in a particular review, right? And then assigning some score, sentiment score to those. And then finally, whatever you see on Flipkart page or Amazon page right now, that for a particular product, customers are, for example, for a phone, customers are talking about camera with, let's say, 4.1 rating, battery life with 3.9 rating. So all that we were doing, that has become much easier now. Like NLP has become much easier with the advent of LLMs, and some of the tasks which we thought were not possible earlier, like generating hyper personalized messages. Well, it would have been possible, but it would have required a lot of development work from AI team. That has become like just an API away. You can just you can write a very basic prompt, and now there are prompt optimizers as well that have been informed that even you can switch between models and you don't even need to worry about prompt because there are optimizer engines for prompts as well. So I would say it has definitely unlocked a lot of new potentials. Like companies are able to think about implementing such things like messaging and getting custom news, etc., which were very difficult earlier. So AI is definitely booming a lot, right? But if you look at the traditional industries, like traditional problems, data science or AI problems that are there in the industries, classical ML is still very strong, and it will always remain like that unless LLMs kind of replace them in future. I don't know. It can happen. But the idea is that still the core problems of companies, like most of the e-commerce companies or any companies for that matter, are like, how is my forecast going to look like? How do I plan demand and supply? Then basically whom to target, etc. Right now, with the advent of AI or LLMs, it has kind of completed the loop. Now I can even think about how to target them. Like I don't need to assign a team or someone to manually target them. You can basically write messages, you can create poems, essays, whatever. Content has become much better in terms of utility. It has become much easier to utilize NLP now with the advent of LLMs. But a classical ML, I feel, is as strong as it was ever. And one thing that I've realized lately, and I think that will always be the case going forward as systems become more complex, that people are getting slightly distant from the data. Like when we were building logistic regression models, which were like the basic way, very basic models, we were very close to that data. Now we are talking about prompt engineering and how can we optimize prompt and even automate that. So people are getting slightly away from the data. That is one aspect of LLMs that I personally don't like, but that is occupational hazard given that LLMs are so big in nature that you can't really go deeper into it for most of the cases. So that is one thing that I feel not so happy about. But rest of the things, I think LLM has opened some doors which were not even possible like that. I think earlier. So that has definitely been a big blessing. And the way it is growing so fast, every day we hear about a new model doing something. Now LLMs are getting customized according to the industry. So I think that is great. Actually, that is very great.
Great. I think let's talk about, maybe the challenges and the best practices for building, scalable systems and systems, AI systems. So you have been, I think, at Sprouts,
Hmm.
this data that is coming
Yeah.
in might be so huge, right? And so how are you guys, tackling this challenge, how to build a scalable AI system in-house?
It's a big challenge, man. So first aspect is cost, right? How do you want to host an in-house LLM system, or do you want to hit an API, right? Cost benefit analysis is always there at the back of our mind, right? Whenever we are hitting an API, it is costing us. Whenever we are hosting a model on our server, it is costing us. So there is a trade-off always, right? And of course, when we are hosting something on our own server, we can optimize it, customize it as per our data, right? As per, let's say, market data, for example, if I talk about Sprouts. I would say right now, matlab it depends on the priority as well for the business. But I would say scalability will always be a challenge, and the way we handle it is we basically try to understand ki what are the needs right now. If you, let's say, want to deliver a product really fast, and we don't have to time to customize, we'll just go to the AI world and basically try to optimize for latency, etc. Right? Try to optimize for cost as much as we can out of the available options. But if we have time, I would want to host models on my own server. I would want to customize them as per my data, and then, of course, see fine tune them. But to be honest, we have not done that in depth at Sprouts yet. We are in the journey right now. That is the plan, like that these are the next steps, that we want to host our in-house model and see how they're performing on our data for our customers. But yeah, that will always be a challenge. Like scalability is a challenge. The way we are handling it right now is, I would say, just spread out to different kinds of models, try to get credits wherever possible. But yeah, there is no direct or shortcut way of handling it. It is the way it is.
Correct. So if you have to, scale and your generative AI application, to the billion users, to all the users, I think enterprise users that you have. So what is the first, preference to optimize on that? Like let's say latency, cost, or let's say accuracy, right? So LLM hallucinate or not. So what is the top thing that at Sprouts that you guys target?
I think customer experience is like primary for us. So we definitely go for latency first. That customers should not feel or should not have to go through bad experience at all. But cost is a close second, I would say. Cost is a factor for all the emerging startups, right? We don't have infinite funds like Google or maybe some of the bigger tech giants, and that is the fun of it, to be honest. To be able to build something with limited resources, but build it world class. That is the fun in solving. So cost is a, I would say, close second, followed by. So first is definitely latency, followed by cost, and then of course followed by efficiency or patience, whatever you want to call it, right? But the idea is that we are trying to give the users best possible experience that is out there. We are trying to build the best possible product in martech, but we are also cognizant of the cost element, and we are trying to fix it as much as we can by using smaller models or different variants of a same model. Or let's say, as I told you about some open source models, we can try and host them in-house and see what is the cost. Infrastructure cost should be lower than what we are incurring by hitting the APIs, so it should be lower than that, but let's see.
Great. So how's your current tech stack look like?
We are mostly utilizing OpenAI. We are utilizing Gemini from Google, right? We are utilizing LangChain right now for LangIndex for our AI agentic systems. We are also planning to move to LangGraphs. There have been new models that we want to try out in-house, which are smaller in size, right? For example, Foro Mini, we want to try out and see whether we can. I don't know whether it is open source or not, but there are lots of other alternatives uh, for smaller models that we want to try out, like uh, and see basically how to incorporate them for our use cases. So this is, and of course, we are also building ideal customer profiles. I don't want to leave out classical ML. I feel for it strongly. So classical ML, we are actually working on creating those ideal customer profiles. So there, I think we are using basic Python, etc. So I would say mostly we are utilizing some of the OpenAI libraries right now, trying to host some of them on our internal server as well. But yeah, that is the tech stack that we are utilizing right now.
So how are you, yeah, as you talked about, right, explainability in your AI, right? So you for the finance use cases, and so how even like for this for your internal use cases, it's like revenue intelligence you guys been creating, GTM everything. So how are you guys tackling, let's say hallucinations and explainability in your models to the customers, or for your customer segment is it's not important at all?
No, it is definitely very important. Hallucination is something which is a big problem for us as well, right? And we are very diligent in making sure that our prompts are such. The way we are utilizing, or anyone who is utilizing LLMs right now, is mostly utilizing through prompts, right? I don't see many use cases where people are hosting internal models and then kind of tuning them. So in prompt, we try to make sure that prompt is such that there are no hallucinations. That comes at a cost, of course, because you have to give the prompt in such a manner which leads to extra tokens, extra input tokens, such that hallucination doesn't happen, right? And it is a major challenge for us. And the way we detect it is that right now we have uh, like internal, very, I would say, very experienced or very focused AI teams, testing teams, QA teams, and they are kind of working on this. We have created some use cases where we know that this model can perform, let's say, this model or any particular model can hallucinate a bit or maybe deviate a bit. So we track it using that. But one of the tools that we came across while discussing as well was your tool, right? Where you are kind of giving that those sort of insights into AI models, like how is it doing in terms of, let's say, particular custom evaluation metric that I want to define, right? So let's say hallucination is one metric that I define, and the other one can be succinctness, right? How concise the message is. Let's say I define these two criteria. So that ways I feel that some of the work still needs to be done from our end. Like we are mostly tackling it through prompt engineering and QAs, but if we have a framework where we are able to monitor our models regularly, right? Whenever we make a shift, we are able to monitor them continuously. That will be really helpful. Right now, we are in the process of building it, but we are in the very initial stages. So it will take time.
Since like data is involved a lot, right? So you are taking the most important data from the customers, right? So how are you making sure that customers are onboarded and they know all these regulatory things, and they trust in Sprouts, right? So how are you the internally team is doing on that? Because there's a lot of buzzword in regulating AI and all the data thing, and having few things
Hmm.
on prem for the customers as well, right? So how is Sprout tackling that?
That's a good question, to be honest. The way we are kind of building trust, I would say, is just being by being transparent, to be honest. I think we have been very transparent with our customers, basically in terms of our capabilities, what are the data sources that we are utilizing, right? How their specific data, whatever data integration that happens with the customers directly, how is it getting utilized, right? And it is not getting misutilized, so to say, right? So there is no breach of India, anything. We are very transparent about that. Like we have very clearly mentioned that these are our data sources. Whenever we are talking to a customer, their data is not getting used like in any way other than just to benefit that particular customer. That has been our strategy so far. And I don't know. I think we are able to build trust basis that. But to your question, are we utilizing doing anything extra to ensure that, well, of course there is a security layer and all that is there, but we are not doing anything extra per se. Matlab, we are just maintaining that our processes are very clear. We are very transparent with the customers how we are utilizing whatever information that we have, and we they also know. Like for example, if I talk about a customer XYZ would know what data are we utilizing to build any kind of model for XYZ, right? And any kind of messaging that happens, let's say whenever we have enabled XYZ and they are able to send automated messages, they are getting custom news, right? And let's say in future they'll use AI agentic systems. So all that is basically happening very transparently. So that has been the key for us.
Got it. Also, briefly you said ki, data science has changed a lot, right? So previously it was all about data. We used to spend 80% of our time just in data, feature engineering, digging the data, all those things, right? And models, running a model was the least thing, and basically and optimizing was also a big part of it. But it was all about data. So how are you seeing this trend, in the future, AI, how the future AI engineers would look like, and how this job shift has also happened?
I think there have been lots of concerns about jobs getting lost because of AI. I think I can say this with a bit of responsibility that definitely there will be an impact, right? We can't say there won't be any impact. Simply speaking, if I have to, let's say, create my resume now, something like that, very basic, or create some meeting notes, right? So if I'm a content creator, for example, I have to write a decent content or article for something. AI can help with that, right? Even in coding through co-pilots, it is coming in now. So it is going into search as well through vector DBs, RAGs भी आ गए हैं अभी तो. So there are lots of things which are changing. Some of the titles will become lesser in importance, I would say, in future. But definitely there will be lots of new titles that will come up with this AI advent. For example, there will be lots of prompt engineers which will be coming up soon, right? And they are already coming up, to be honest. Now AI agentic systems are coming, so people are kind of moving towards that. I'm sure in 1 year's time something new will come and people will try to learn that. So this space has become very big, right? So lots of people who would have become, let's say, software engineers or just engineers earlier would want to or are wanting to venture into this AI space. And it is mostly engineering only, right? It's not really maths and probability and statistics like it used to. It's mostly about how do you utilize a particular tool. So I feel that engineers or any kind of technical professionals will have a very clear open way into AI, which used to be slightly difficult earlier because maths knowledge was required, right? It has become a slightly easier to get into AI now, given that it's mostly about tooling and slightly less about maths. But yes, there is definitely a shift coming in, and that happens with every advent of every technology, right? So when coding started, people started becoming software engineers. Now when I passed out, it used to be the staple role. Software engineer was the most normal role, right? Most sort of. Now it has. I would want to believe it is AI engineer. Everyone would want to become that. So that change, that shift will keep on happening. But I don't see any so-called negative impacts of AI as such. Well, I see if we use it responsibly, if we use it for the right with the right intent for the right cause, I think it is a great tool to have.
So how will according to you, the future data scientists will look like?
There will be two kinds of data scientists in future. One is the developers who are kind of inventing these algorithms, who are mostly PhDs, who very deep in their field, and the other kind is the ML engineers or application side of it. The way I use it, right? So I have a MTech, BTech and MTech from college, but I don't have a PhD, right? So I can't enter a research kind of roles, and that is not something that I really enjoy, to be honest. I am a more of an applications guy. So these two will be the major contributors. I see 80-90% will be in application side, 10%, 20% will be in research side. Most of them will be very well versed with AI systems, slightly weaker in classical ML. But I think as LLMs and AI grows, classical ML will also be eventually automated. I don't see any challenge in automating classical ML as well, given what we have seen so far, right? Some great technologies that have come up in the last decade or so. I feel that that is going to be the direction. So there will be application engineers who are utilizing LLMs, maybe tuning them at home or not at home, but at whatever company is in house, right? And then there will be research roles which will be like deep into AI.
Great. Uh, so you have worked on so many diverse problems from data science now, in generative AI as well. So uh, let's say we start with a real world problem that is there, right? So how do you translate a real world problem that I have, right, to and let's say data science problem or AI problem or generative AI problem, and maybe you can take with an example. Now you're solving or previously you have solved, right? And how do you start? You started from that problem statement. You have to solve this problem using data science or AI. Now to how does that real world problem look like?
So I feel that I at least I used to say it when I was at Flipkart. I remember that the a true and it was before LLMs, right? So we were building deep learning models for NLP and images, etc. at that time. So I used to say this very strongly that a strong data scientist or a good data scientist is the one who can actually look at a problem, a general problem, and then convert it into a AI system or data science system, ML system, and then solve it and see the impact. That is the biggest tool of a data scientist. How do you conceptualize a problem? I remember we were working on one of the problems called quality scoring at Flipkart, right? How do you assess quality of a product? And the idea was that we don't want any returns happening. Right? It leads to very bad customer experience. So I just chose this example randomly. If you want me to pick something else up, we can talk about that as well. So we were looking at quality, and it is a very practical problem, right? Because we want to give customers the best experience, but if they are receiving bad products, right? How do we ensure? Because there is a delay, then there is a cost involved as well, major cost for Flipkart because product is getting returned, leading to bad customer experience, and then leading to customer churn. So if you look at the entire life cycle, it will have impact on various metrics. Customer churn will be high, return rates will be high, cost will be high, right? So the way we were trying to figure this out was that so one way is a theoretical way that you look at the product, you look at the price, you look at what is written in the product page, and you try to assess is it making sense or not. For example, if I'm, let's say, selling a phone which has great specs, but the price is very low, much lower than the peers. So I can say that there seems to be some issue with this particular. There might be some issue with this quality, right? This happens a lot in lifestyle actually. So if I'm selling Adidas jackets, let's say at one third or one half the price, there might be a problem, right? So these cases we can handle through simple logic, right? But it is much more deeper than that. Like sometimes the things are fine, but the seller is wrong. Seller is a little dubious, right? Sometimes everything is right, but the buyer has a problem. Buyer has a tendency of returning. So this was a practical problem for us. And the way we targeted it it was that we went ahead and started modeling for ratings and return rates. We started predicting those for all the items on Flipkart. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was hundreds of millions of items at that time, and it was a huge system, right? And of course, this has a 80-20 problem, right? Like 5%, 10%, or 20% of the products we'll have data because we'll have orders, we'll have return rates, we'll have ratings. But for rest of the 80% of the products, there won't be anything, right? Now, how do you make sure? How do you build model for that? How do you apply it? So we started looking at some of the seller information, buyer information, information about the product, what has been their rating, then weight using recency, has it recently dropped? Similarly for seller, similarly for buyer. And then we used to make a prediction, right? Then we used to remove seller and buyer factors from it, of course. So every product used to be linked to a seller, like that was by design. So we can remove buyer information from it and then rate a product. That's what you're doing. And using this, and you can basically expand it to other products from the same category. For example, if I have a seller who's selling 5 products, one is selling, four are not selling. But using one product, I've identified that this is not a good seller. Then rest of the 4 products will also get impacted. If I have identified that this is a good seller, this is a good product, I would want to extend the same courtesy for other things, right? So this was a very practical problem that we were solving. It had a major cold start issue because 80% of the items won't have any ratings or return rates. And we this is how we solved it. Basically, we kind of clubbed all the items together. We have a patent as well, I think, on this. Yeah, so we were clubbing similar items together. So we were creating these product cohorts and then rating those product cohorts in terms of quality. So that cold start problems automatically gets addressed, and that is how we solved that problem.
Nice, Sumit. I think you are the right guy to advise people who are getting started at these roles. As you said, the shift will happen. Software development, ML engineers, people want to become more AI engineers. That's the hot buzz right now in the market. And I've been seeing a lot of software engineers also, okay, they have worked in backend. Maybe I want to, work in LangChain, all these fancy agents, right? So, what are the core skills or technologies should inspire AI professional to focus, basically now which they can focus on, or the kind of skills that they can get?
I think basic is Python. Then you have different frameworks, and deep learning used to be a big word. So PyTorch and TensorFlow became important earlier. Now it is LLMs. So mostly people are using lang graphs or lang chains or directly hitting open AIs as well, like open APIs as well, like LLM APIs. So some of the technologies that people should be really good at, I think, is one basics of coding: Python, Pandas, NumPy. I think some bit of knowledge about PySpark, right? Distributed uh, database systems, right? Then, of course, a bit of knowledge about PyTorch for, let's say, building in-house deep learning models, right? These and LangChain and LangGraph are definitely very important nowadays. I think these are some of the basic technologies that will help. I think some of the things can be attained over while working as well. For example, creating APIs, these sort of basic API testing, basic API security. That those are very easy to learn. But I think if you have a strong base in Python, you can learn rest of the things. I think so. I would not make it too complicated. Just learn Python for a beginner, start solving problems and learn on the job as you go. You will basically learn everything else. That's not too difficult. A bit of SQL as well. Sorry, my bad. SQL and Python. These are the two basic bread and butter, I would say. After that, it becomes easy. You can learn anything else.
Great. A bit of unconventional question. So, you guys might be interviewing a lot of guys, right? So, let's say people, as you said, like basics of Python should be known, right? So, do you guys encourage like someone in the interview using, let's say, some ID like Cursor or, Autopilot or ChatGPT? So, yeah. So, like people who can sport with that. So, how do you look into like because I have been encouraging my team to use this because it's like that works is the productivity is really high on that, right? And we can code so many things very fast. I can write testing code on that really fast, right? I can do a lot of things very fast. Even my front end team is using that. What do you recommend these guys, AI ML engineers, and how do you take this interview process?
Interview process has changed a lot, to be honest. Because earlier, I remember we used to have very strong rounds about coding, about probabilities. There used to be two rounds about AI, right? In uh, core concepts, like in-depth concepts. How does XGBoost work? How is it different from RF? I'm talking about, let's say, 10 years back, not 10 years, 7, 8 years back. We used to have these questions, deep learning, right? Now those questions are not being asked. I think what is being asked is how do you utilize this LLM? What are the parameters for this, right? How do you tune it? How do you build a AI agentic system? These also interview process has changed a lot. And to be honest, right now, the way I interview candidates is I mostly look at whether they have the capability to understand or they have understood what they have worked so far. So I have personally not hired freshers from college recently. I think last fresher was, I don't even remember actually. I don't remember when we hire last fresher. Probably in Flipkart. So it has been some time. So mostly we hire slightly experienced people, 2 years, 3 years, because I usually lead the core modeling teams. So either they are promoted from or transferred from analytics teams, or they have some experience, right? So that way, the way I look at it is whenever they have worked on their previous problems from their work experience, Do they understand everything that they have done? That is very important to me, because that shows the curiosity, right? And of course, I delve deeper into their respective projects, and I usually pose a open problem from my current organization. So let's say if I'm working at Sprouts and we are working on building AI agentic systems, so I'll pose that problem and see how they can venture, or any other problem, any other open problem. And then I would want to align that person with that particular area if they are able to think in the right direction. So interviews have become easier, definitely, in terms of knowing things. But I think that is a demand of the day, that you don't have to dig deeper because things have become easier, right? So I think that's fair.
How do you keep up with all this information, right? So because you have to also learn so many things at the same time, right?
So I am very bad at it, to be honest. The way I usually learn stuff is by working on them and solving problems. I'm not a theoretical person, to be honest. I mostly am an application person, and that has been the case with me. So the way I do it is I am still hands-on. So I learn I learn on the job, basically. So if I don't get time to code, I usually do code reviews. I go through all the codes. Even now, I am going through all the codes of my team, whatever project that they have worked on. I personally do code reviews. That gives helps me be in touch with what is happening in the latest, in terms of technologies, right? So that is one way to do it. Do people do use a lot of podcasts? They use a lot of they read a lot of blogs. I think that is very helpful. I would not advise anyone to do what I do, because it's good to read, it's good to read papers, etc. I find that very boring, to be honest. So I want to just get my hands dirty, get things done, and I really learn quick when I'm on the job, when I'm doing something. So that is my way of learning.
It's like, taking a practical project, whatever, and it's just like a company's project, but really actually building it and then knowing, okay, what can be applied. But yeah, uh, but I would somewhat agree with you on this. Let's say the most practical learning happens when you're not reading but actually building something, because then you know that what breaks and what doesn't break, right? And what can play out, as you said, right, for the data, right? So a lot of data scientists know, okay, what these models will do and how they can train, but actually starting from data, which is very raw, and making it useful, and then training a model, that's a very different experience, right? For a data scientist.
That's beautiful, man. To be honest, I do miss those days, but it's okay.
So yeah, Sumit, would love to know your thoughts on future of AI, and how even teams in revenue intelligence, GTM, and a lot of applications that you feel will be coming in, and how different people in companies, right, can adopt a generative AI, and what are the different applications that you see coming up.
I think multimodal is definitely growing fast now, right? AI agentic systems we have already talked about in there, right? So these are some of the areas that are going to grow. I feel that AI will have a very strong application in domain specific domains as well. Like LLMs for specific domains will become very popular in future. Like for medical domain, let's say we have to analyze a lot of reports from the past, or let's say there is a visual representation, some sort of X-ray or something. There it will become very useful. Similarly for, let's say, legal field, there are lots of, I think there are some companies which are working on creating LLMs specific to legal field in terms of helping out lawyers from previous cases. There it can help out a lot. So wherever, so I'm thinking of this in this manner, that wherever image and textual representation of data can be there, which is in most cases, there AI will grow much faster, and it will become very customized to each of these fields as well in future. And these custom LLMs or field specific LLMs will actually become like the industry leaders in that particular domain. And we talked about agentic systems. I don't want to really stress on that too much, because I feel there will be something new in next 1 year which will replace that as well. So but if I talk about it theoretically or philosophically, I would say that these LLMs customized to specific areas will definitely blow up a lot. And there is some really good work to be done there, to be honest. So I feel That will be very helpful. That reminds me, actually, I just want to share one anecdote with you. When we had a kid, right? My son is 5 years old now. When we had a kid, we used to go to these doctors, and I remember that using the same report. I stay in Bangalore, which is one of the better cities in India, right? We went to three doctors. We went to decent doctors, and we got three different opinions on the same report. And I was very confused. I was like, "What is happening, right?" Matlab, then I realized that we went through a friend who had recommended a doctor, and he told us, no, no, everything is fine. And we saw his rating, etc., and we had trust that whatever this doctor is saying is correct. So that I feel is something that can be solved using AI, right? So some of these things, right, wherever we feel that information is there, we just need to collate it in a better manner and present it better. I think some of these fields will definitely get very positively impacted by AI. So, for example, if I have a tool, let's say, which can guide doctors, given whatever history, final call can be taken by a doctor, but someone can guide them that this is a possible diagnosis, this is a possible uh, whatever next steps that should be taken by the patient, right? That will really help in improving some of these important fields, I would say. So medical is something that I feel very strongly about. Other is education. These two fields I feel very strongly about, and I want AI to really succeed in these two fields where it can really help out humanity.
I think that's where the multimodal models will be a lot be useful.
And I think some bit of classical will also enter there. I think it is high time that LLM starts doing classical bits as well. It's not tough, to be honest. The way LLMs are doing right now, the way they are operating, it's child's play for them to completely automate some of the aspects of classical ML. So that should also come in, and I think it will become a holistic system then.
Right. I think it's they will shortly come into this because they have been limited to text.
If not, we will build it, man. It's fine.
Definitely. So Sumit would love to ask, what will can be a lot of applications of generative AI now, since it's the turnaround time of AI is so less, right? As you said, the future AI builders won't be data scientists. There will be two types of AI builders. Mainly, it will be developed by software engineers, and it unlocks so great power that your imagination is not now a limit, and you can apply it to several places, right? And we hope that now it's you can also tune your OpenAI models to your data. So what do you think are the very exciting applications that you see coming, and that you are very hopeful about that that all you want to see?
So at least education in my days, right? I was born in '87, so I might be a little older for the audience. But in my days, education, I would say that my personal education at school wasn't great, right? Most of the things that I've learned are on the job or on my own, right? So I think AI can really help make education much more knowledgeable. So I feel that in Indian education system right now, that is my personal opinion, right? Don't hold me to that, but I feel that Indian education system doesn't provide a lot of knowledge, to be honest. Like people don't enjoy the process of education so much. So if they are not enjoying it, they are not gaining knowledge out of it. I remember I used to be very weak in studies till ninth class, 10th class, maybe mid of 10th class, right? And I remember, I don't know what happened. I suddenly became good. But to become good, I had to actually re-study maths and science from 6th class to 10th class again to actually gain knowledge. I passed those classes, but it didn't mean that I enjoyed those or I had any knowledge because there were very less practical things and mostly about dictation. So I feel education is a field where AI, just by introducing more practicality and demos to things, to concepts like physics concepts, it's very easy to demonstrate Newton's laws for a ninth class student using graphics. Why don't we do that, right? So AI will play a key role there, I feel, to revolutionize the entire education system, right? And people should be studying what they really enjoy and actually implementing or using those in their lives to create an impact, right? That is one area. Other I told you about was medical. Medical is quite regulated now, so I don't know how it is possible, but I feel that AI will definitely have a major role in future in the medical field, whether it comes to diagnosis, whether it comes to, let's say, maintaining some of the records, customer records, patient records, right? And maintaining patient histories, recommending. So right now, when you go to a doctor, you don't look at last 10 years of history, right? You say that this is happening, these are my symptoms, suggest something. To the best of their knowledge, they will have a flow chart, try this, try this, try this. But when you have a longer history available, right? AI can actually help doctors figure some of the things out, maybe help them identify some of the things early on rather than, for example, I was reading one case where cancer was identified in the first stage using AI. That was very inspirational to me. That is where we want to. I might be sounding a little off, but I don't want to just use AI to make money, right? I want to really create impact. It is such a powerful tool, and I'm very lucky to be in the field for the past 14 years when it was not so popular, right? So I feel that as AI practitioners, it is our responsibility to ensure that we are utilizing it in the right direction. So education, medical, law, recently a case has also happened, right? Law is one area where I think AI can really help out a lot in terms of guiding people, right? I would say that some of the countries, I would not name which, but some of the countries don't have the best of the legal systems, right? So some of these things can be sorted out using AI, and this is where those LLM customized specific to a field will come into play, and I think they can really help improve people's lives.
Now you have said, like, for education, basically you can ask practically any question. Maybe the video generations are also included, right? So you can just say, just explain, visualizing this example, right? So, and then
Spend so much money on our education. We spend so much effort and time on our education. I think we can do better. Whatever we have, we can definitely do better.
yeah. And then this, as you talk about personalization of the reports, right, for a patient, then our education system is actually not personalized. It's quite strict.
It's not personalized at all. Actually, yes. People have each student have different learning pace, right? They have different learning abilities, and everyone when they enter a class of 50 students, in my days it used to be 50. I don't know what is the status now, but everyone is measured on the same yardstick, right? There is a lot of comparison that happens in the education system. It is useless. It doesn't give you anything. Rather, it kind of conditions the mind in a manner that you are always competitive till you are dying. Oh man, I'm dying at 69. My friend lived till 75. Something nonsense I'm saying. But the idea is that we need to move away from these things, from competitiveness, random competitiveness, over competitiveness. Learn, enjoy, learn for the joy of learning, gain knowledge for the joy of gaining knowledge. Similarly, for patients, I feel very scared in India, to be honest. I've seen, this is from my personal experience, so I can say it, and I'm talking about Bangalore, and I don't name the doctors, but it was very scary for me. My son was like 28 days old when this happened, and I got three different diagnoses, and I was very scared. I was like, what is happening? Right? And I realized it is nonsense. matlab, This report, it was a very simple report, very simple test. Why three doctors are giving me three different diagnoses on the same report? And one of them is saying absolutely fine, and one of them is saying, no, you need to admit your kid right now. So it doesn't make any sense at all to me. So I feel, and when this is happening in Bangalore, I'm assuming it will be more prevalent in some of the smaller cities, if not more, at least as much as Bangalore, right? So I feel this is where I think AI can definitely venture in and help out people.
So, as you said, doctors. So, do you feel like I definitely see AI has been productive too, as you said, right? It has helped working with doctors, making the experience better, right? So, what is the point that you feel, you'll trust an AI more rather than a human, right?
Right now, right now. So, I always believe in data, man. So unless I have data on a doctor, so for example, we have a doctor for my kid. I don't want to offend her, but so we know that she has been treating my kid now for last 3 years. So I would trust that doctor, of course, over AI. Well, he's just joking. But if you ask me randomly, this is a doctor, he has this is this, and this is an AI agent system trained on this, I would want to believe AI system more because I feel that it'll have more data to look at. And it's a practical thing as well, right? I'm not saying the last word should always be doctors, but I think that we have so much data getting generated everywhere in the world. And if an AI system can use the entire data set, no individual doctor will be able to do that. The way AI system can scale, right? You're talking about scaling earlier. You were talking about a different kind of scaling, which was like providing AI solutions to, let's say, billion customers. But what about AI systems being built on data from billion customers? That is where I feel key scaling will be so powerful. And individuals can't do it because it's not possible. Logistically, it is not possible. So AI systems like that should help out doctors, and basically doctors can also learn from them. So that is where I feel this like AI should impact in the medical should have an impact in the medical field. I think this is the direction to go in.
Great, Sumit. I think had a very wonderful conversation with you today, and your journey was also very inspiring. I hope people hearing this have learned a lot of things, and maybe
I hope
doctors as
no doctors are messaging, DMing me after this podcast.
well.
Great to be here on your podcast. I know you personally, we are friends anyway. So
Yeah,
it was a very casual, very candid conversation. And I think we discussed the positives and how to take this field forward. So, first of all, best of luck to you as well. I know you are doing great work at your company.
thank
Uh,
you.
and let's take the field forward, I would say.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Definitely, Sumit. We'll take it forward. Thanks a lot.